All right, everyone, welcome back to International Soccer Break. I have two very exciting guests with me today, Ishana and Narita, who are huge soccer fans and will give their own perspective on the World Cup. But let's start off. I know Narita, your family is Cameroonian, is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about what it was like, just kind of the African teams and watching with your family and kind of what that meant to you.
Yeah. I don't think I'd be as passionate as I am about soccer if it wasn't for um my earliest memory, the 1994 World Cup. It was in Palo Alto, and we lost very badly to Brazil. But I remember just everyone being there and everyone coming together to be around the television. I think a few of my relatives were able to go and watch it, but soccer has always been a part of me despite never actually playing. And seeing the Cameroonian team, play as hard as they do. And when I say Cameroonian team, I really feel for all of the African teams. And seeing them, you know, try their best, even though they don't necessarily have the same level of exposure to everyone who's playing on some of the top leagues in Europe, or they don't necessarily have the best funding, but still coming out there and like giving it their all, like means the world to me. And I think to the Brazil match, 2022 Brazil match, and that moment was amazing because um, we celebrated. Cameroonians were so happy. Like, hey guys, we won. We beat Brazil 1-0. So I'm excited about, the future of soccer in Africa.
We'll walk through some of the best moments of the tournament. Let me start with we'll start from the back moving forward. So, who do you guys think, from your opinion, was the best goalkeeper by your view?
I'm going to say Livakovic on Croatia, just because I think it was a surprise. I don't think people were expecting that much out of him, and I really think that he kept them in the tournament.
Yeah, I'd say best goalkeeper. I'm with Ashana. Livakovic was really really good, and I think everyone was like, "Where did he come from?" Um, and I guess I'm a little biased. I will throw a shout out to. Um, he was actually the second string, or he was
Hmm.
brought in as backup goalkeeper from Cameroon. His name is Devis Epasi, and he didn't let a goal go through.
He's
um,
great.
so he was pretty good out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was the Brazil match where they had
Yeah.
good credit to him for coming in big stakes like that. Okay, so we're gonna go now to the next up in the field, like defenders. So, Ishana, who do you think for you were the best
I
defenders?
mean, again, I'm like a little biased. I thought Guardiola on Croatia was amazing. The Masked Man. I thought he was just surprising. I don't think people were expecting that from him. He did mess up a little bit against Argentina, but I would go with him, and I'm excited to see where his future takes him.
All right, so how about so now we'll move forward to midfielders. Norita, who kind of caught your eye in this tournament for midfielders?
I would definitely say Griezmann as a midfielder. He was doing everything he needed to. He was defending, he was assisting at the right times. I just loved seeing him play and the fact that he was everywhere he needed to be.
Yeah, that was my choice as well. I would agree. He looked very strong this tournament, with the exception of this game. Oh, it was rough in that first half. But aside from that, I thought he was really strong.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. And obviously, Modric for me was player one of the players of the tournament. So I would say that. And now here's an area where the U.S. needs help. And so this is the best strikers. Who would you guys say? Who would you say are the best strikers that you saw in the tournament?
Well, this is easy for me. Definitely Mbappe. I mean, the guy, like, first of all, the power with which he shoots is amazing. His placement is awesome. You give him a ball and he just turns and goes. He's such a good finisher. He's so clinical. And at the end of the day, people can talk about possession all day long with soccer, but ultimately it's about scoring goals. And if you can't do that, and if you can't finish, then that's it. And so he's very clinical, and he can strike from far too.
I absolutely agree. Mbappe, he's my guy from 2018. But I am excited to see Alvarez on the Argentinian team. I think he has a lot of potential.
Now I kind of want to talk about just the goals of what there were some fantastic goals, obviously, but if you had to choose one, what would you say is your top goal from the tournament?
So I would probably say it's Richarlison on Brazil. That game against Serbia where he literally did like capoeira on the field. Like it was amazing. He turned, he did a whole flip. It was brilliant. It was super fun to watch. I feel like that's Brazil at their finest. Just, you know, super fancy and elegant, and that was a great goal. I thought also Weghorst, Netherlands. First of all, it was just so menacing to bring him in, this huge guy, and then to score off that free kick at that moment was so challenging to keep them alive. And I thought that was a great goal, great set piece. It's hard to score like that, and so those would be the goals for me.
One that I do remember actually was Cameroon's match versus Switzerland, when Embolo scored, he didn't celebrate that. It was a beautiful goal, but he kind of like paid allegiance to his country, and he, kind of just like tapped his chest. And I thought that was like a really nice moment, and where he was, playing for his team, but still recognizing and giving allegiance to his motherland.
Yeah, that was a fantastic moment, and that's kind of what the World Cup does. It brings everyone together in that kind of shared experience, which is fantastic. Just in general, like, uh, just talk to me in general, sort of what the World Cup has meant to you both, and Narita, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. So for me, the World Cup means everyone coming together, like from all over the world. Um, there's only 32 countries that are going to participate. But what I love is how everyone kind of finds um, their stand in country, and everyone is just as passionate and excited. I find that there are World Cup people and non-World Cup people, and I will almost always enjoy sharing a drink or a beer with a World Cup person, someone who is there. I had many lunch breaks where I would just like run to like a cafe or a bar down the street, and the atmosphere is always pleasant. It's there. Of course, there are defeats, and there are people who are really sad when their teams get sent home. But at the end of the day, just like the unity and having everyone all together is what makes me really love the World Cup and makes me excited for 2026.
The thing I love about the World Cup, which I was saying to some of my friends who aren't soccer fans, I was like, look, when the US plays, it's as much my team as it is yours. Like these aren't club leagues. This is, you're playing for your nation and for people with, your heritage. And as much as, I think there's so much corruption and issues institutionally with the World Cup, I do think ultimately it has more of a unifying effect rather than encouraging dissension. It's very inclusive. I think that's what I love the most. It really bridges together people who you wouldn't maybe ordinarily hang out with too. And I think after the pandemic too, it's like it's kind of stressful to socialize sometimes. And the nice thing about the World Cup is you can socialize without socializing. And sometimes like just sharing experiences together and sharing those memories is enough. And it's just really beautiful.
I know, Narita, you have to catch a flight, so we'll let you go. But really appreciate you joining and just hearing your experiences about the World Cup.
I did enjoy the match, and it was so good seeing you guys both and sharing that experience together. And so, yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
All right, and we have to finish with, of course, the most important question. I saved it for the end, and we have a resident expert on this topic, so have to ask you, Shauna. Let's talk about the World Cup hair.
Man, okay. I just like, I've been every single tournament. I'm so excited to see like what's gonna happen with the hair. And like obviously the classic look that everybody goes for is doing a little buzz cut and bleaching it blonde. We've been doing this since the 90s, like Ramsey on Wales, he does this all the time. Basically, the entire Brazilian team did it this year. It's a classic. However, this World Cup, what we saw that was different was almost like an ashy blonde situation. Griezmann did it, like Giroud did it a little bit at the ends. I thought it was playful. We had McKinney. I know people thought he was supporting France with his hair, but I thought it was really fun. You don't see US players do that a lot. However, there are some people that miss the mark.
That's what we want to hear. We want to hear the miss the mark people. Let's
yeah,
get into that.
you know, I feel bad saying this, but Belgium, you know, they're very past their prime this tournament. That was evident. There was reports of infighting. There was this great play where Thorgan passed to his brother Eden and he missed it, and I just thought that was so funny. But I think what encapsulates that feeling of, you know, maybe you're no longer relevant is Courtois' choice of hair. Basically, he did what we like all did, or usually men did in the 90s, where like they took like one piece in their bathroom and they decided to like dye this one piece. It's one of those things where you're just like, dude, what were you thinking? Like, do you really go to your barber and say, this is what I want, this single highlight? Yeah, it was sad. He's a great goalkeeper. He didn't have a great last game, but I thought that encapsulated sort of the team as a whole. Like, okay, this generation is they're trying to hang on to what's past, perhaps. So yeah, that would be my take on the hair.
2022 is a wrap. So moving forward, now let's talk about the next World Cup that's coming up. And, you know, we obviously have to talk about the important team, which is the US team. So where do we go from here?
So Women's World Cup this summer in New Zealand. I think what's exciting about that is, for once, I want us to go for our three-peat, but I think what's cool is we're seeing more other international teams really developing as well. So I think the competition is going to be really great. I think it's great for women's soccer in general. The bigger question is obviously, what are the dudes going to look like in 2026? Because that's a completely different story as sort of underdogs. Something I'd like to see is, I just think we need like a power striker. We have an issue that we can't score, and I don't know what it is. I don't think we're very clinical with our shots. I think if we could get someone or develop someone who really is a finisher, I think that would help our team tremendously. I mean, as great as Pulisic is, I don't see his role as much like that. I think he makes great assists. I think he moves the ball very well. He's a playmaker. He's great on the ball. But yeah, I think that's what we need.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's definitely the path forward for this team and the road forward. And I think that, you know, that's something that we'll look forward to from the team, and in both teams, actually. Like you said, they both have different coming at different points, right? And for the women, it's trying to win another one, and for the men, it's trying to get over that next step of winning a knockout game. So
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it's nice to kind of have both energies. I think you have the, you know, like the women's team, I feel like models more of that American sort of mentality that we're used to in sports, and then the men's team, for me personally, as like a first generation American, is sort of reminiscent of the experience I grew up with, kind of like an underdog, and sort of like that's the America I grew up with. So it's sort of nice to have, I think, both sides of the equation.
So, well, thanks for joining, Shauna. And I think, you know, just this has been an excellent tournament across the board, and it's been just a really fun month. So, you know, now we look forward to the next one with the women, like you said, of the summer, and go USA.